In the last visualization, we are going to look at the profit margin by segment and product. So what I would do is to go to my analysis table. Now I'm going to pick profit margin. Then I'll come to financials. I'm going to pick segment and the product. I'm going to bring this here. So I'm going to resize this. Now I'll go to my visualizations and I'm going to pick matrix. Now what I'm going to do is to bring the product under the segment in the rows. So I'm going to bring it here. Now I'm going to expand down one level in the hierarchy. So I'm going to pick this. And now for each of the segments, we'll be able to see the performance for each of the products in terms of the profit margin. So I'm going to resize it here and then expand this a bit. Now what I'm going to do is to add a background. So I'm going to copy this, Ctrl+C, Ctrl+V, and I'm going to bring it here and resize this. Now I'm still going to select this. Then I'll go to format. Then I'll go to arrange. Then I'll pick send backward. I'll click on the drop down and I'm going to pick send to back. Now I'll click outside and now this will be at the back of this matrix. Now what I'm going to do is to select this. Then I'll go to format. Then I'll go to column labels and I'm going to pick bold and also change the color. So I'm going to pick the color here. So you see that this has been formatted differently. Now the next thing I'm going to do is to apply conditional formatting. But here we are just going to add some icons that will indicate whether the profit margin is positive or is negative. So what I would do is to maintain my selection of this matrix. Then I'll go to cell element and this will allow me to apply conditional formatting. Then with the cell element, we have the series. So now we have the profit margin selected, meaning that when we apply conditional formatting, it will be applied to the profit margin column. Then here we have different conditional formatting that we can apply. So what I want to apply on this is the icon set. So I'm going to turn on icons. Now by default, this is going to apply some icons based on the range where the value will fall. But I'm going to change this. So I'm going to click on FX. And I'm going to remove one of the rows. So here we are using the profit margin as the basis. So if the profit margin is greater or equal to 0, but is less than the maximum profit margin. So here I'm going to pick number as well. So if the number is greater or equal to 0, and the number is less than the maximum profit margin, we want it to have this indicator. But if the value, which is the profit margin, if it's greater or equal to the minimum number, but it's less than 0, which means it's negative. So I'm going to pick number. Then I want it to have this indicator. So here we are basing everything on the profit margin. So if the profit margin is greater or equal to, so here let's make it greater. So if the profit margin is greater than 0, but is less than the maximum profit margin, we want it to have this indicator. And if the value, which is the profit margin, if it's greater or equal to the minimum profit margin, but is less than 0, we want it to have this indicator. We can go ahead and add another one. So if the profit margin is equal to 0, so I'm going to pick number, then we can use this yellow indicator. So this is the rule that we want to apply. So I'm going to click OK. And now if you take a look at this, you see that this is where we are making some losses, and you see the indicator here where we have positives. You see that we also have these indicators. So I'm going to click outside. Now we have this here. Now what I'm going to do is to create a copy of this. I'm going to bring it here. Now we have our profit margin by segment and product. So for each of the segments, you can assess the performance by product. So this is how you'll be able to put together this dashboard. Now in the next video, we are going to look at some of the ways that you can consume your Power BI reports. So after developing your report or your dashboard, you have to think about how you are going to share it with your audience or your stakeholders. So in the next video, we are going to look at some of the options that we have in Power BI that we can use to share and consume our Power BI report.